When my team met the past couple of weeks, I think we did a pretty good job at discussing both the patient and the person aspect of who was in the case that we were specifically talking about. We considered the person as a patient as far as their care or the whatever they were seeking, the health care or anything. And we also considered the person as far as the ethics and the empathy goes, because I think a lot of the cases we looked at were lacking, specifically both in the care itself, with the Lewis Blackman case comes to mind, and the empathy in all of the cases that we've talked about. So when we were discussing all of the different case studies and the videos, I did actually place myself in the situations. I thought of how, well, in the Lewis Blackman story, I put someone like a family friend in that situation because we had someone in my family that went through a very intensive heart surgery and came out of the surgery really well. It went really well. And then they ended up dying because of the aftercare that they were receiving, or the lack of aftercare they received in the hospital. So I related it to that and how we felt as a family and the family friends in that case, and how the doctors could have handled it a lot better, and the same with the Lewis Blackman case. So I found myself relating to that. And in the other cases, I put myself in it and thought how I would want it to be handled. And in this case this week, I thought of how if I was Miss Thompson, I would have wanted to know when my doctors found something that they thought was not going well, or that it wasn't working, the treatment wasn't working. I would want to know right away, and I wouldn't want to wait until they're at the point where someone has to tell that I'm dying. And I think it just was way taken not necessarily not seriously, but they should have told her much sooner. Um, so that's how I felt about those. And when we met as a group, I think myself and everyone in my team participated in each meeting, and I think we all agreed with each other a lot, and that could have necessarily been a little bit of a problem because I don't think there was anyone that ever disagreed with something that someone else said. And I find it hard to believe that after over all the weeks with everyone in the groups that there was no one that disagreed with something that at least one person had mentioned or said before. So I think that myself, we all could have done better at disagreeing or maybe challenging some points that people made, and just poking it to see more of the thought process behind that thought and where they were coming from with it. So I think we really just avoided conflict as much as possible. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because when you think to the Lewis Blackman case, then they didn't want to confront people that they disagreed with, and they didn't want to say if there was a problem or something that they didn't agree, and that led to Lewis dying. So I can see that this is a really big problem, and it's common. Like, if we were to apply our team to the real life world, if we were a healthcare team and we didn't disagree or make anyone else like elaborate on their answer, then it could cause negative impacts for the patient. So going along with that, I think everyone in our group was what they considered in that video more of the green zone chickens, because we were all just agreeing with each other, going off of what each other were saying, and no one was stepping up and taking that more assertive role and making any changes and being more dominant. I think we were all just going with the flow and saying our points, agreeing, and moving on. So I think that could definitely improve, because if we disagreed and talked about things more, it could lead to more effectiveness and positive outcomes, and it could mean more valuable time spent in these meetings instead of just saying something, saying, yes, that's the same thing I thought, and then moving on. So I think we could add a lot more value to the meetings if we progress the conversations more, and maybe not always disagreeing, because there are a lot of times we agree, and that's great, but there certainly are times that you could disagree or maybe question where that thought came from that somebody had, or something like that. So I think that applied to the real life would lead to much better outcomes for patients and whoever the client may be with the healthcare team or the interprofessional team. And I can see how we can take these opportunities that we've gotten in this class to collaborate with our classmates and peers to apply later in our lives and learn lessons from these so we can get better and improve for when we have our careers and we can make better differences.